I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land that we are on and paying my respects to elders past, present, and emerging. Histories of heat, light, and power in Australia don't just begin with the year 1788. In order to fully appreciate the futures which await us, we must reflect on the past and understand that today's status quo has also been built on the historic decisions of those who went before. In this presentation, you're going to hear stories from 4 different visions of the year 2050. These aren't predictions, they are scenarios. That is to say, future contexts designed to challenge our assumptions and provide a vantage point for our strategic choices. These scenarios were constructed from material generated in a 2-day workshop hosted by Energy Consumers Australia in December 2019, with participants from across the energy sector, including market bodies, consultants, and consumer advocates. The workshop employed the Oxford scenario planning approach developed at the Said Business School. This method generates strategically useful future contexts by identifying the driving forces in an ecosystem inhabited by a key decision maker, in this case, COAG Energy Council. Our participants identified and combined driving forces from this ecosystem, seeking to generate future contexts which would enrich current strategic thinking. The 4 scenarios which resulted were iterated twice by participants and then further elaborated through discussion with Energy Consumers Australia and voices from the international energy sector. How to use these scenarios. As you hear these 4 visions of Australia in the year 2050, I want you to ask, what challenges and opportunities would exist if these futures were to arrive? How might the sector need to adapt? How would people in each scenario's future judge decisions which the energy sector is currently making? And how could the sector think differently about what comes next? What opportunities might be revealed through scrutiny of these scenarios? In each scenario, we'll meet Josie and her daughter Hannah. Josie is in her early 40s and divorced. Hannah is 10 years old. In each future, Josie works in a different role relating to Australians' use of heat, light, and power. Her work and her home life will provide a window on the changing nature of the energy sector in each scenario. Scenario 1 is called Bundle, and its key question is asking what happens if consumers' energy needs get bundled with employment or other services. In this world, energy consumption is bundled into employment alongside other services such as healthcare and housing, much as in today's America, where health insurance may be included with an employer's offer to staff. Technology has unlocked efficiencies and advancements in energy productivity. Corporations dominate civic life. The existing conciliation and arbitration regime has come to an end, and the ultimate outcome of the trend towards a gig economy was that employers had to step in to ensure staff well-being. Notions of privacy have changed radically, and surveillance is the norm. Australians accept the end of privacy, sometimes grudgingly, because it has brought comfort and efficiency to their lives. In this world, job seekers have their energy use profiles scrutinized and in turn make career choices based in part on their employer's energy offer. In this world, algorithms monitor people's use of heat, light, and power at home and at work. Josie works in human resources for Hypermarket, a major retailer. Her role is algorithm impact assessment, ensuring that energy algorithms comply with regulations, legislation, and her company's ethical guidelines. Many people have fractional part-time jobs and require the government-mandated Universal Basic Energy Allowance. Superannuation funds similarly bundle energy into pension arrangements for retirees. With guaranteed minimum levels of energy supply, some people are better off than under the current regime, but others struggle. Josie and Hannah save energy by turning off their air conditioning so that they can transfer energy credits to Josie's retired mother, who only has a basic energy package as part of her pension. Questions for the world of bundle. What other forms of bundling can be imagined? How could competition and openness be promoted in this future? Is the potential impact of technology on Australians' relationship to energy being underestimated? And what are the implications of bundled energy for the haves and have-nots? Our second scenario is entitled Patchwork, and in this vision of the future we asked, could declining trust see the national energy grid fragment, requiring local action? In the near future of this world, trust in the national energy market dwindled. Ongoing policy uncertainty and a troubled economic climate led to insufficient investment in the equipment needed to generate and distribute electricity. The bushfires of the 2020s, leaving communities cut off from power, led to a desire for self-reliance and a recognition that community investment in batteries and solar power may have mitigated these effects. By 2050, major infrastructure providers have pulled back from regional areas owing to experiences of stranded assets and focused their business on major population centres. As a result, local governments have stepped in, and a role has been created for embedded networks carved out from the grid. There is still a rhetoric of ensuring that the lights stay on across Australia, but in practice this is delivered locally. In this world, access to expertise and appliance parts is variable across a patchwork of localized energy systems. In Patchwork, Josie works for a local government energy inclusion team, ensuring regional communities' energy needs are met. She gives advice to these communities, and for the smallest and most remote locations, she can provide temporary kits and batteries. Energy meals on wheels. Josie travels, like most people in this world, in a car with solar panels which charge batteries. In this way, power can be transferred from her vehicle back to her home. In many parts of this patchwork, voluntary reward schemes allow homeowners like Josie to accept interruptible or constrained power supply at predetermined times. However, some homeowners augment this with illegal, unregulated battery hookups. Questions for the patchwork scenario. What does an energy system where people and communities have gone it alone look like? What new skills and expertise will be needed to manage a more distributed system? What opportunities as well as challenges would emerge in a localized Australian energy sector? In the plenty scenario, we asked, what if catastrophic climate change frees us to generate abundant wind and solar power? Much agricultural land in the Australia of this future has been rendered unproductive by climate change. As a result, Australia used the desertification and depopulation of its centre to develop the world's largest solar and wind farms. As climate change drove people towards the coasts and cities, governments have increasingly experimented with using inland regions for energy generation. The north of the country now offers viable farming and as a result has become the national food basket and also a supplier of biofuels. In the meantime, renewable energy has also been used to power large-scale desalination. Storage technology has also leapt forward with a move to next-generation lithium air and lithium sulfur batteries. Australia leads the world in transmission technologies, especially in terms of resilience against severe climatic events, and lines run from the red centre to the Australian coasts, but also overseas. After the establishment of the Sun Cable from Darwin to Singapore, there was an increasing focus on energy export. On the morning we join Josie and Hannah, they are breakfasting on luxury food grown in the Northern Territory. Their life is prosperous and comfortable, but even in the middle of a Melbourne winter, it's too hot for them to exercise or work outdoors any later than the early morning. Josie's mother has chronic health problems dating back to the heat stroke she suffered during the climate crisis of the 2030s. In this future, the world trade system has largely collapsed to be replaced by bilateral and regional models. The breakdown of the WTO has seen a return to unpredictable and contentious systems of global trade. However, Australia has secured its position regionally by supplying its abundant energy to the countries of the Asia-Pacific region. Domestic energy prices are high, affected by export prices. Josie is highly alert to how international trade may affect her work for Australia's new National Energy Agency, for example, paying close attention to whether hydrogen export forms part of the negotiations with an Asian trade delegation. Questions for you as you explore the world of plenty. What contingency planning is in place for opportunities as well as threats emerging from possible climate outcomes? Would there be an energy reservation policy for Australian energy consumers? What impact would a regionalised or bilateral trading system have on access to energy technology manufactured overseas? In our final scenario, rescue, we use a vision of Australia in 2050 to ask, what if a new social and political movement drives the transition to cheap renewable energy while compensating incumbents? In this world, a new grassroots movement has come together to address the impossible-to-ignore impact of climate change, hand in hand with a turn towards volunteering and community action. The volunteer firefighter tradition has evolved into a climate resilience corps, coordinating efforts via next-generation social media. National pride is entwined with broad environmental awareness, and the anniversary of the 2019-2020 bushfires has a solemn national commemoration each year. Australians are more energy literate and committed to their environment than ever before. Climate issues can't solely be addressed on a national basis, however, so even though this change has come about from the Australian grassroots, organisations like the Climate Corps collaborate with peer movements overseas. In a new world order focused on sustainability, Australia's informed and dedicated citizens are a role model. This new social movement has provoked a national change of heart, leading politicians to explore ways to pay for a hastened transition to clean, green energy. Josie coordinates volunteer efforts using digital rostering. This is a prestigious and respected paid role with the Climate Resilience Corps. Josie's organisation is the Australian affiliate for a global climate action network of governments, non-profits, businesses, philanthropists, and grassroots movements. They channel international, government, and crowdsourced funds to achieve sustainability and survivability outcomes in their region. Internationally, these organizations are designing a 20-year strategic plan to achieve a global renewable economy by 2070, with water supplies secure in the long term, farmland managed sustainably, and the essential needs of humanity to be met inexhaustibly by renewable sources. Questions for the world of rescue. What effect will 2020's environmental movement have on Australian consumers, their attitudes to energy, the politicians they are willing to support, and their overall willingness to take responsibility and inform themselves about energy choices. If a new actor led the transition to cheap renewables by compensating incumbents, what values would drive such an actor? What would be expected in return? Which futures does the energy sector currently consider too bright to hope for? What strategic decisions today would make them more credible? In this video, you've been given a brief introductory tour of 4 scenarios exploring plausible futures for Australians' relationship to heat, light, and power. We've asked, what happens if consumers' heat, light, and power needs get bundled with employment or other services? Could declining trust see the national energy grid fragment, requiring local action? What if catastrophic climate change frees us to generate abundant wind and solar power? What if a new movement drives transition to cheap renewable energy while compensating incumbents? As you consider these 4 scenarios, ask yourself, what new perspectives are created by these visions of Australia's future? How would Australia's current energy stakeholders fare, individually or collectively, in each of these futures? What present-day issues are highlighted by these plausible future contexts? And how could we adjust our current strategies to address these emerging issues? Please take these questions with you through the panel discussions, the accompanying videos and documents, and every opportunity you have to consider Australia's energy futures at this forum. You can also contact me directly via mechanicaldolphin.com. Thank you for your time, and I hope you have a lively, useful, and rewarding discussion.